Thanks for joining us inside the Dancer's Studio, where we bring listeners like you closer to the creative process. Inside the Dancer's Studio is a program of the National Center for Choreography at the University of Akron, as part of our Ideas in Motion initiative. This episode was recorded in the presence of a live audience in February 2020. Today we join Christy Bolingbroke, our Executive Artistic Director, in conversation with Guillaume Gabriel, co-founder of French company Companie Hervé Koubi. The company's work was born from a mixture of techniques and influences at the crossroads of urban dances and ballet, and the coming together of Koubi's French-Algerian and African family history.
Tell us a little bit more about what is your role or creative relationship with Companie Hervé Koubi?
Basically, I'm a co-founder of the company. So we created the company 20 years ago by now. And for the 10 first years of the company, we were a contemporary dance company working on several projects with always behind our heads the need to find our roots. In the very beginning of the company, we were working with traditional musics from the center of France. After that, there was always a need of belonging to what part of the world do we belong and what is our place as an artist, as a choreographer, and where do we come from to better know ourselves and maybe to better know where we could go. Mm-hmm. And on that process, at the age of 25, Hervé Koubi, so the choreographer, learned that from his parents that he was not from France, but from Africa.
Oh.
That was
twist.
A shock. Yes, twist and shock. Hervé is really a French name. Mm-hmm. Koubi, it's not a French name. And it's not like Dupont or Durand or Martin, which are really French. And he knew that his parents were born in Africa. Mm-hmm. They were born in Algeria. But, there has been a long story between France and Africa with colonization and decolonization and independence. But as he has white skin with freckles.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So it was like from Brittany, from north of Europe. And at the age of 25, he asked his father, where do we come from? Where Koubi comes from? And that day, his father showed to Hervé a picture. And on that picture, there was a man all dressed in traditional Arabic style with pants and turban and whatever. And he said, this man is your great-grandfather. And he was only speaking one language. It was not French. It was Arabic. And it's the same thing from on your mother's side. So he was not from Brittany, but he was from Africa. Yeah. So we decided to go to Africa in that idea of belongings, of roots, and because it was also important for him to know where he was actually coming from. Mm-hmm. But we didn't want to go there only to go in the streets or to see the houses or the tombs no, we wanted to go deeper in our job in choreography.
Not just as a tourist.
Yeah. So we called some French institutes in the United States, in Algeria, and they told us, we asked them, do you know where we could find dancers? Is there dance schools or companies or whatever? And we've been told there are no dancers in Algeria. Good luck. Oh, that was the thing. We decided to go, however, and we managed to find very little email addresses, 5. So we sent an email to these people and we say, we would like to meet you and maybe if you have friends, and we would like to start a process of something with dancers from Algeria. And the day of the casting, there were 250 people.
Oh. update the Algerian
dancers.
census. Yeah.
So they are dancers in Algeria, but they are not dancers as we could imagine from Europe. They were not contemporary dancers. They were not classical dancers. They were not trained dancers. They were self-trained dancers.
Mm-hmm.
They were more dancers from the streets, like hip hop or capoeira, or most of them learned dance through internet.
A social form.
And so we had our contemporary language, contemporary way of doing things, of creating movements, of using space, of writing, also the choreography. And we had new raw materials with new raw dancers that we wanted to do something all together. But it was not forecast. It was not planned. And for instance, before the company, we used to work with female and male dancers. And the day of that casting, we only had boys.
250 male dancers.
Yeah. Well, 299 males and one girl.
Okay.
But the thing, we did so that first project, which is called What the Day Owes to the Night, which will be presented tomorrow in Cleveland.
At Playhouse Square.
And the idea that Hervé wanted to work with those dancers was in a certain way to put movements and images on all his Orientalistic dreams. He was dreaming of his Algeria, so it was a way for him to put it in dance, in movement. So What the Day Owes to the Night is the first part of that process with dancers from Algeria, from Africa, and later from the whole Mediterranean basin. Because What the Day Owes to the Night is the first step. And after, always in that idea of belonging, of roots, I told you that Hervé had prickles. And he said, why my skin is like that? It's not a North African skin. So he went more for the second project, which is called the Barbarian Nights, in that idea of the global history of all the Mediterranean basin. So What the Day Owes to the Night is his point of view upon his own history. And the Barbarian Nights is from
a broader context.
Yes. Of all the huge history of all those people coming and crossing and mixing and meeting and fighting or wedding, or of those mixes of cultures, of religions, of that in a certain way are the basis on which we are standing in Europe and in North Africa, in all the Mediterranean basin.
It sounds that the creative inspiration for each work is still deeply personal.
Yeah.
Are there other things that inspire Hervé? Is there research like reading, or is it coming from a place of, I love this music? Like, what else inspires, this is the next piece?
For the Barbarian Nights, for What the Day Owes to the Night, the main inspiration was the paintings of Delacroix, of Ingres, of all the Orientalistic painters of the 18th century. He took the same process as those painters, as those artists, at the moment, at the end or in the beginning of the 19th century, in the 18th and something, with the colony and everything, there was a huge dream of what were the colonies. And
they didn't have the internet then.
No.
Yeah.
So it was dreams, it was phantasms, also fancies. It was just like, how can it be? And Hervé wanted to use the same process. So he was very much inspired of paintings, of Delacroix, of Ingres also. So maybe if you can see the show, you will have maybe find okay that maybe make me think of that paintings or whatever. And we also were inspired of the Arabic calligraphy, all those movements. And so this was the basis to create the movement. There are a lot of movements like that, as if they were writing on stage. Also some ideas of hammam, of general habits, also in north of Africa. The relationship, the brotherhood and the relationship that you can experience between male of people of the same sex in north of Africa. It's very natural for male to hold their hands and walk and grabbing each other's. It's absolutely not connoted like sexuality or whatever. It's just like brotherhood, and they touch, they grab, and it's really normal. So that was a part of giving a point of view on that culture, the culture that he dreamt, and with that, what the day of the night, Hervé used to say that with that show and with those people, he better found himself. He better knew himself, and he found in a certain way his found brothers. Some maybe tragic vision is, when the Hervé's parents came back from Algeria to France, they thought they would have been welcomed in France. All those people thought they would have been welcomed, and but that was not the case. There was kind of strange feeling. They were French, but they were not welcomed anymore in France. So for him, it was a bit difficult to understand the way that his parents erased all the past. Because he knew at 25 that he was from African roots. So during 25 years, his parents hid him that his real roots, because he wanted him to be more French than the French.
Well, and fast forwarding 10 years from that moment, you and Hervé have brought many of those dancers from Algeria to France, correct? I mean, they have helped them emigrate now. And how big is the company?
Some of them, they all came to France. They worked in France. Well,
not all 299 of them.
No.
Okay, just a second.
No. Now the company is, it depends on the projects, but between 17 and 20 dancers on the projects.
That's a lot of family. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
I want to dig into process a little bit. How would you characterize the relationship to music or sound in the creation of new work?
There are several dimensions of music. There is the music as a sense for what the day owes to the night, and even for the Barbarian Nights. We wanted to use music from both sides of the Mediterranean basin, because we wanted to talk about all the mix and combination of these cultures. And for us, music is really connected with culture. On What the Day of the Night, there is a part of the Passio from Bach, St. John's Passio. So this is really a Christian music. There is also Sufi music. And there is also contemporary music, which links and mix everything as a vessel from going between the cultures. And there is also the absence sometimes of music, the silence. Silence is important also for us to emphasize the music of the bodies. Nothing is really counted.
Right.
The most important is to be together, to make body with the music and to dance together. One of the major important things in the company is we want dancers to be together. There is no first dancer, or there is no...
The hierarchy that you might find in a ballet company.
No, there is no. And I think the most important is at every show we try to, again, find this this magical thing of being together and to find and to create the new possibilities of always making something new. It's really boring when you have a dancer and he says, I've been doing this for so many times and I will do it forever. This is not the thing that we want to. We want to always, even if everything is very well written, the most important is not to do, but is to be on stage.
And even just a little bit that I got to see of you teaching class, I was struck and remarking to some, the lack of counts also seemed to not be, to be non-hierarchical, that you weren't beholden to the music. To hear you describe it, it feels more cinematic, as if you're scoring a film instead of where we're dancing to the music and it's dictating what happens next. But this idea of brotherhood, and if I were to then interpret that term as a spirit or sense of community, and what you were coaching was how to dance together without needing the counts to dictate how you would stay together. But this idea of, being aware of who's running on this side of you and who's doing this on that side of you. And I absolutely recall like that experience, because there is a lot of rhythm in the performance, but it is the sense of how the dancers take care of each other. How if you have someone who is literally spinning on their head, what I always enjoy is seeing how they come out of it. And there's usually someone who also steadies them because they might be a little bit dizzy. And just taking care of each other instead of saying, you do your part and I'm going to do my part. And then that's just it. But it's like, oh no, we're here making this community together. And that's very present. So I was fascinated to hear that about, where music factors into it. Cause some people start with music in their practice. I'm also curious, what do you and Hervé do when you're in a rut? Do you ever get to that point where you're like, I don't know what to do next? And then yet you have 17 dancers who are like, okay, what are we doing today?
I think we never are in that state of...
Not yet.
No.
Okay.
We have about 5 or 6 new projects behind our heads.
That's good. That's good. Excellent.
Maybe, and there are, we live for what we do, what we want to share, and we are always fed with actuality, also with news, with what's happening. And in France, at this moment, there is some weird things with immigration and
that sounds familiar.
Yeah, and maybe more people are more on themselves, and if there is someone who doesn't talk like you or doesn't pray like you, or maybe that could be suspicious. So we are in the middle of I think it's a bit a sick society, and we can't stay without doing anything. So we are always trying to concern people with what it is to live together and to try to better know each other's. It was the beginning of the company. I told you we wanted to better know us, and I think that if people would better know each other's, I think they would understand more and more one another. And something interesting. One day, Hervé used to present the show before, and at this moment in France, you have Muslims and you have Jews and you have Christians, and there is no mixity. And even if you go in certain places, this is even more like
segregated.
Yes. And Hervé's mother is Muslim and Hervé's father is Jewish. And usually he presents the show before to the audience. And one day he said that, and in the audience they were young kids, teenagers, and for them it was impossible to have one Muslim and one Jewish and that they could marry.
Wow.
So I think we have a big work to do, and this is the message that we want to share with our shows. So we have done a lot of ideas behind, and also at the same time we have also ideas of the choreographical work that we are working on.
I was going to say that it is fascinating to hear about the socio-political issues that resonate and matter to you as artists. At the same time, the work is highly physical, entertaining even. And I'm curious, how do y'all, my Texan comes out, how do both of you define virtuosity?
It shouldn't be seen as something virtuous.
Yeah.
It's when we started to work with those dancers,
because it could become trick after trick after trick.
Yes, but
you found a way to sort of navigate that.
Yeah. When we met those dancers, there was a huge need to express themselves, an explosion of movement, a really spring of energy, and that was the way they wanted to shout something. And for us, all those acrobatics, and you can't do it half. If you jump and you fall.
Yeah.
So you really have to be committed in that movement. So it's a way of shouting, of going really with all your body. It's like all the lifts and you really have to trust one another when you are jumping and the other one receive you. This is part of the message that we want to express. We want to say it loud. And if we do something, we have to do it, but 100% is the minimum. So it's not a quest of virtuosity, but it's more to use the movement to express something, just to be in connection with what they are and what intense is the message that we want to share with the audience. I think we are not just circus numbers.
It's not for audience appeal.
No, it's part of, sometimes you catch you catch the idea, saying what we are going to say is it's important because it's part of our society. And yes, that's I would say also we love those movements.
Of course.
But that's also because they come from the dancers. And it's part of what they have to say. And this is a way to concern the dancers in the show. We were trained as classical or contemporary dancers. And our idea was not to teach them to be a contemporary dancers.
Right.
We wanted to let them express and to let them be within our way of building the choreography. So it's their part of expression. It's their part of being themselves in all that acrobatic things. For instance, one day of rehearsal, it starts with 1 hour of technical contemporary yoga Feldenkrais class.
Okay.
And after, for 1 hour, we leave the dancers in their training techniques. and they find again, and this is, I think, the part of how to dance together. When they learned how to dance, they were teaching each others. That was building the group. That was building their dance community.
That also breaks down that hierarchy where it's just the choreographer who does the teaching. They're teaching each other.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And this is what we want to keep in the company. So there is our way of moving, all what I told during the class, all the qualities that we want, or how to breathe, how to
Well, and now you're
use the
talking
floor.
about codifying these as a series of techniques or teaching practices. Do you want to maybe wrap us up and tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, it is it is a bit what I am trying to explain to you, the mix of what we are, what they are, all the personal and individual researches, and that we put together to make something new. And for instance, with that, this is important I think in the if there would be one name of what is the work of the company, it's to dance together. With all that means, all the trust, all the respect of the techniques that one can bring and that one can bring, and we are working on new technique, because the idea is to better know us, to better know each others, and to see what we can do. And the idea of we call it art, associated researches techniques.
Associated researches techniques.
Which is, as I tell you, to associate the individual learnings, to put them together, and to know how these techniques can be useful to express something, to express a subject. And for instance, the lack of the way that you don't know each other, or we have a subject, but within we will use this technique, these associated techniques that we experience with our contemporary background and all the street dancing background. And there is, I know that Hervé is really fond of all these rotations. The world is spinning. And if you can see on the Sufi, this is when you spin, there is that builds a new dimension. So we are focusing on these spins and all this vertical, all the relationship with the floor, the vertical and horizontal, and even the jump and everything. The jumps we use is our rotations also. We're not just jumping, but there are backflips or whatever. Dancers, when they spin on their heads, when they spin on their hands, when they spin on their feet, like classical dancers. This is all these spinning things that we are really focused on the art technique. And as you say, what you noticed is, and we are really focused on it. It's not the acrobatic that interests us. It's what you do, but the most important is how you go in and you go out of it. So, and all these little before and after are as much important as the middle in itself.
Very good. Please join me in thanking Guillaume Gabriel.
Inside the Dancers Studio Lunchtime Talk Series is supported by NCCAkron, the University of Akron, the University of Akron Foundation, and the Mary Schiller Myers Lecture Series in the Arts. Our podcast program is produced by Jennifer Edwards. Ellis Rovin is our composer and editor. Transcription by Madeline Greenberg. Theme music by Flaco Torres. Cover art by Micah Kraus. And Julian Curett and Kat Wentz are our artist coordinators. To learn more about NCCAkron, please visit us online at nccakron.org or follow us on Instagram or Facebook at NCCAkron. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we encourage you to subscribe on your favorite podcast streaming platform by searching Inside the Dancers Studio. Thank you for listening, and stay curious.